Hey everyone, Christine here, full-time freelance writer in the technology niche. I also lead a course called 30 Days to Paid that helps new freelance writers set up their online presence and cold pitch clients so they can build a full-time freelance copywriting business. And something that came up from one of my students, it's a common question, it's a common concern, and I want to, share my answer and what I told to her in the private course with everybody so that anyone who's struggling with this can benefit from this. So part of what I do in my course is tell you how to properly fill out your LinkedIn profile so that you can be discovered for freelance writing opportunities. And part of that is putting in keywords. And in my course, I audit my students' profiles and say, okay, you're doing great here. Here's what you need to add in order to have your profile visible to your ideal clients. And one of my amazing students wrote me back and said, well, I was going to fill that section out, but I don't have that skill yet. I don't have content marketing. I don't have the writing skill yet because I'm new, and I feel like I'll be fabricating if I put that on my profile. So that got me really fired up and really, motivated me to come on here and tell you why that should not be a fear, right? Because we all have to start somewhere. We're all going to be new at some point. So how are we supposed to market ourselves properly and get discovered and show clients that we're right for the opportunity if we're afraid of saying what our skills are? We have to, right? We have to put down that we are writers. We have to hang our sign on the door to get discovered. And I want to explain to you why it's not lying. But first, I want to cover the fact that, wow, writers are amazing people, because here we are so afraid, because I had this fear too. Here we are, we're so afraid of lying or fabricating by putting a keyword in our LinkedIn profile saying that we're writers. Meanwhile, I want you to think of yourself, and then I want you to imagine that movie Wolf of Wall Street, where you see this guy literally calling people up and defrauding them and stealing people's entire life savings by selling products that don't exist with these like penny stocks and pump and dump or whatever, with this whole Wall Street scheme. So here's you filling out your LinkedIn profile, and here's the Wolf of Wall Street. I want you to keep this in perspective, and I want you to understand that you are an honest person, that you are not lying. And let me explain to you why, right? So it's a little bit of a reframe. When you put what your skills are as a writer, you are not outright saying, I have 5 years of writing experience. And the reason why we get caught in this trap mentally is because we're used to resumes, and we're used to having to put our dates of employment and our who they can contact and all of this stuff that lets the potential employer screen the candidate and fact check and go and the issue is, when you are a business owner, when you are a freelance writer, when you are a solopreneur, nobody is going to be checking references and checking dates of employment and checking the length of your work. What they do care about is your samples. So I'll get to samples in a second, why they'll be so helpful in this process. But I want you to reframe your thinking from saying, okay, if I list that I have this skill, which is SEO, which is content writing, it is not saying that you've necessarily done this. You're saying that it is what you offer. You are sharing with the client what you are offering. And every business, no matter what, has the right to share what they offer. So here's the third thing, and the second thing. This is about your background, your niche, why your niche is so important, why it will give you this confidence boost, why it'll push you past this concept that you are a fraud, because all of this comes down to imposter syndrome. You think they're gonna know I'm new, I can't say that I can offer this service if I've never done this before, or if I've only done it a few times. So we wanna push past this imposter syndrome, this feeling that you're a fraud. And why I always suggest choosing a niche and choosing something that you are knowledgeable in is because your background is not debatable. You have your background. And the specific student that I was speaking to, that I'm using for this example, has 20 years experience in her field. So it's insane to me that somebody who has this such impressive, strong background and experience can be sitting there and be afraid and not have the confidence to say, yes, I can write in your niche. So I have a whole post about that on paidcopywriter.com, but choose a niche that you have real life experience or real life knowledge in, because that's what the client cares about. They care about your knowledge, and I'll explain to you why. When you're copywriting, when you are writing content, you are not writing in the traditional sense. You're not writing a novel. You're not writing poetry. It's not so much about the writing skill. What copywriting and what content writing is assembling words. It's a matter of arranging words in certain sequences and certain flows to persuade the reader to take an action. It's not your traditional sense of writing. So what allows us to assemble words as copywriters is our knowledge, is our background. So if you can say that you have years of experience in a field, that is more valuable than another writer that doesn't have that experience. It comes down to your samples too, right? So if a client sees what's in your portfolio and likes it and wants to hire you, that's all that matters. And I'll explain to you in an actual scenario where this happened. So to start my website and my online course, paidcopywriter.com, I hired a brand photographer to take photos and headshots of me because I felt like it would help me be more visible in my brand. And I had an option between two photographers in my area. One was really experienced. She had clearly an extensive body of work. And then I had another writer who wasn't as experienced, but she took photos and she had in her portfolio similar to the vibe that I was looking for. The other girl who was really experienced was a boudoir, I don't know how you say it, boudoir photographer who literally took pictures of like naked women for like their wedding gifts. So everything, I don't care about that, that's fine, but it was a very dark vibe. All of her photos were shadowy and dark because obviously that's what you need when you're naked. But my photos, I wanted to be like me sitting at a desk with a laptop. So I went with the photographer that had the experience of shooting for the brand type of photos that I was looking for, that would show people that I was a copywriting mentor, a course creator. And I chose her because I liked her work in her portfolio, even though I could tell she was new. And that's how your clients are going to feel as well. They are going to look at your writing and they're going to see that you chose a niche. If you follow my instructions about choosing your niche and creating a whole online presence based around that niche, and they are going to choose you. So the whole point here is to not be afraid of listing out that you are a copywriter, that you do have these skills, even if you are new. And I'll never forget this. When I was in kind of like a career transition, I had a career coach say to me, because I was trying to switch fields and get into something unrelated. This is before I was a copywriter. But she said, you are what you say you are. And I still feel like that's kind of ballsy to say, because you really can't just say you're anything. Well, actually nowadays you can say you're anything you want to be. But I want to be honest, and I don't want anyone to feel like they are labeling themselves something that they're really, really not. So what I want you to take away from that is on LinkedIn and with these skills, telling somebody what you offer is not lying. Jackie said, is it true that it takes years to learn copywriting skills? I was told that. I mean, copywriting, this is my opinion about copywriting skills. Copywriting is sales. So I think it takes years to learn sales skills. I think you could learn sales skills in as little amount of time as you want. If you buy 5 books and blaze through them in a month, then you will have learned sales skills. What's interesting to me with copywriting is that it's about persuasion, it's about sales, it's about selling, and it's about marketing. and your ability to write is most likely already there because you're choosing to get into this field. Like I don't think somebody has no clue how to write and wants to pursue copywriting as a full-time career. So for me, I knew that I had the writing skill because I was an English major. I took fiction writing classes. I was very into writing in general. But then I also knew that I was in sales for all those years, so I knew about how to create marketing content and stuff like that. So when you can combine those two skills, you are a successful copywriter. If you can write to persuade, you are a copywriter. And what's interesting to me is that the number one question I typically get is like, what copywriting books should I read? And the crazy thing is that I don't even think copywriting books are super valuable for new copywriters. If you want to gain a lot of knowledge in the copywriting space, read books that are about sales, like Persuasion by John Cialdini. There's also a sales guy named Jeb Blount, who says a lot about how to sell and what sales skills are. And that's actually more valuable than copywriting books. Because what I find with the copywriting books, because I've read several of them now, is that they're more geared towards business owners who have a product, they know their product, they know their industry in and out. They just don't know how to craft a narrative to market their product effectively. So if I was a brand new copywriter and I had read the Adweek copywriting handbook or how to write copy that sells, all these books that I've now read, if I had read those in the beginning, I think that would have really intimidated me and thrown me off. So in my opinion, the best place to start is going to a website like HubSpot where they talk about content marketing. Because first, before you learn how to copywrite or what copywriting skills are, you need to understand the general sphere of where you fit in with this grand scheme. So your job, the reason you're being hired as a copywriter is that you are part of a content marketing strategy. You are only being hired because somebody is trying to sell something and they want to use your words to sell it. So when you understand what a content marketer's job is, what a chief marketing officer's job is, what their goal is, you kind of understand, oh, this is the point of that blog post. It's not really to prove that I'm this amazing writer. It's to get this company discovered so that they can eventually sell their product. So, if somebody says it takes years to learn copywriting, I mean, it takes years to learn any job skill. I feel like that's something that people say to intimidate, and I don't think that it's helpful advice for new copywriters. All right. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I hope this helped.